Here comes Speed Racer, he's a demon on wheels.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Porters, and I'm joined by a man whose car comes equipped with seatbelts. Sweet Sean Zakovacs from the internet.
Oh!
And thank heavens Anime Dad is on our side, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear. Guys, prepare to have your mind blown. Racer Rex backwards is Racer Rex Racer. Wait, I said that wrong. Anyway, Rex means king.
And we'll talk about all of that because this week we are talking about Speed Racer, the live-action movie that the Wachowskis followed up The Matrix, and they said, what do we want to do next? Give them all the money in the world and let them go do Speed Racer. And do you guys remember what the thoughts were when that was kind of announced?
I think there was a lot of excitement about it, immediately followed with disappointment. That's kind of what I remember.
I have no memory of Speed Racer. I even saw the movie, and I had no memory of it. None.
Yeah, I did not see the movie. I remember people were like kind of excited for it. This was what, 2008?
I think so. I forgot.
Yeah, 2008, yes.
Yeah, so I thought people were kind of excited about it, talking about it like it's going to be this cool thing. And then it was, the early reviews came in before wide release and people lost interest before they had a chance to see it. Maybe my memory is compressing that a little bit. Maybe it took the opening weekend for people to lose interest. But if I remember correctly, this performed pretty poorly versus its budget.
Yeah, it was one of those things that, yeah, I think when it was announced, it was like, oh, we've just seen this, kind of dark Matrix and everything coming from the Wachowskis, and now it's like, well, where are we going to go with this? How are you going to turn the Speed Racer cartoon into a live-action film? And, all I remember was people saying how terrible it was, and I think that was the thing that made me not actually go and see it or anything. But, we'll see if maybe we should have revised our statements because this month, this movie was actually voted by the people who help support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Over there, they get the pre-show, post-show, and, of course, the Dinger Zone. And once a month, sometimes twice a month if things get a little bit bumpy and the schedule gets all kind of jammed up and everything, you get to vote on a movie we watch. And so here were the choices this week. Dollman versus Demonic Toys, Red Sonja, TMNT2, Winona Earp, and Speed Racer won out. This thing was a barn burner for a lot of the time, and the majority of people actually voted on this one, and I'm so glad that they did. But it was a big tie there for the longest of period. But Speed Racer speeded its way to the very end there, so we'll be talking about
which one was it tied with?
Demonic Toys or Dollman versus Demonic Toys was where they were kind of back and forth for first place there for a hot minute. So I think Demonic Toys is going into the next round, as it were.
Yowza.
So we'll throw that in there as well. But, be like one of those awesome people that supports the show over at patreon.com/HMP. Again, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. Get yourself an awesome nickname. We really appreciate that. And the beginning of the month is coming up, and that's where everything kind of comes. So if you hear this before the beginning of the month or right at the beginning of the month, go ahead and just head on over, patreon.com/HMP. Support the show. Get more stuff at the exact same time. You can't much beat that. Let's do it, everybody. Here is the trailer for Speed Racer. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Nope, I did it twice. Okay, so I'll have to put that in post. Son of a gun.
Your son seems to be interested in only one thing. All he talks about, all he seems capable of thinking about, is automobile racing.
Racing's everything. For my family, it isn't just a sport. It's way more important than that. It's like a religion.
Are you ready to become a real race car driver? Then sign that contract.
He's just trying to scare you, son.
What you do behind the wheel of a race car
has nothing to do with business.
You walk away from me, you walk away from this deal, no matter how well you drive, you won't win, you won't place. I guarantee you right now, you won't even finish the race.
You think you can drive a car and change the world? It doesn't work like that.
Maybe not. But it's the only thing I know how to do, and I gotta do something.
Move it, Speed. It's getting ugly out there.
Wasn't my idea.
Oh, no?
It was his.
He's going to be very good.
No, he's going to be the best if they don't
I did it
destroy
twice.
him
Okay,
first.
so I'll have to put that in post. Son of a gun. Bruce, let's get down to it.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Let's see what we got this week.
Mach Go 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 was created by Tatsuo Yoshida and debuted in Shonen Book in June 1966. Yoshida was born in 1932, so that made him about 13 years old in 1945. And I don't know if you're aware, but 1945 was a dicey time to be a teenager in Japan. There probably wasn't a whole lot of joy just lying around to make a kid happy, but in order to find a way to create his own happy place during an understandably crummy time, Yoshida taught himself to draw. It turns out he had a real knack for it, drawing. And in 1962, at only 30 years old, he founded Tatsunoko Pro, an animation studio that was one of the pioneers of modern anime. Given that he had already found success on Japanese television with an animated show called Space Ace, I'm pretty sure he created his car racing manga with television in mind. Mach Go 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 is what became known as Speed Racer to English speakers, and its road to international recognition was the fast lane. And that kind of forced metaphor there, that was absolutely intended, but not as intentionally lame as it turned out. But Mach Go Go Go's first chapter was published less than a year before its anime debuted on Japanese television in April 1967, and within 3 months of its Japanese debut, Speed Racer was being broadcast in English on ABC. That's the American Broadcast Company, for those who may not be aware. Now, this manga to America fast track made a pretty penny at a time when the Japanese economy was still recovering. This pathway to economic success is one that Yoshida attempted to duplicate with Gatchaman. And I don't know if you can help folks remember the original American name for that one, guys. Do you remember Battle of the Planets?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not quite the same as Speed Racer, but the same guy behind it. Now, as much as the average guy thinks of Speed Racer as a cartoon, pretty much first, last, and at every moment in between, I'm not the kind of guy that wants to ignore its manga legacy. The manga is where we get to meet Go Mifune, the character many know as Speed Racer, but in Japan he was drawn to look like Elvis and named after Toshiro Mifune. And you may not know this, Adam, but that guy was a famous actor in Japan.
I'm a little aware of who he is, yes.
Now, in the manga, the name of the car is the Mahago, and Go means the number 5, so that's kind of close to Mach 5. And if you remember that Speed Racer's first name in the manga is Go, and then the use of the English meaning of Go, the manga's title, Mach Go Go Go, can roughly be translated to an American understanding as Mach 5 Speed Racer Go with an exclamation point. So I can see how simply choosing Speed Racer might work. It was not the only TV show which was exported to the U.S. Have either of you guys, I'm sorry, it was not only the TV show of Speed Racer that was exported to the U.S. Have either of you guys ever heard of Wildstorm Comics?
Yes.
Yeah, it was founded by some guy who could draw real good. Well, Wildstorm Comics reprinted the Mach Go 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 in the year 2000, cleverly titled Speed Racer, the original manga. Glad to know that Jim Lee follows the HMP method of naming stuff.
Just slap on what it is.
I used to think the big M on the Mach 5 stood for Mach, you know, but the M is actually for Mifune, Speed Racer's family name. I understand that in the 1960s, the memories of World War II were still fresh in many people's minds, so they didn't want to keep the Japanese family name for the U.S. broadcast. But Racer, was that really the best they could do for an English last name? I say, what's wrong with Murphy? Name the kid Speed Murphy. And then the M on the car can stand for Murphy. Oh, well, I guess nobody asked me, did they? Adam, have you got a list for us to get me out of this awkward comic book connection this week?
In fact, I do, because if that comic book connection wasn't enough, let me sell everybody here on Speed Racer, because this movie's got everything. Because I hope you're hungry, because we've got some scenery chewing. The directors of The Matrix have all the money and none of the supervision. A list of A-list stars being as serious as a heart attack while being in pretty much the wackiest thing ever. Montage scenes that would make Eisenstein jealous. CGI so vast George Lucas is jealous. A small child in a monkey wear outfits and get into jams. Matthew Fox does his best George Clooney impression. Emil Hirsch does his best Emil Hirsch impression. John Goodman and Susan Sarandon are great in roles that shouldn't be great at all. And come for the crazy live action anime. Stay for the super cute Christina Ricci. This movie's got everything.
I had two things that I thought of immediately while watching this. One is, Adam, are you in the Christina Ricci sweet spot?
I am indeed.
I figured you were, because for me that was Winona Ryder, but for you it was probably Christina Ricci, right?
Yeah. I'd say that's a pretty good, pretty apt comparison. Those two.
Yeah, and the other thing I thought of while watching this is that it's basically the movie Speed Racer is basically a massive budget Spy Kids with a really well-trained monkey.
Yes.
Oh, man, I'll give you some trivia. There were two monkeys. It took two chimpanzees to make this movie.
What? I didn't even notice.
Did they kill the first one? Is that what happened, where they had to get a second monkey? Like, listen, it's a hard day for monkey number one.
The way that one monkey was holding on to the steering wheel of that cart, I would be surprised at all if they had go get a second monkey.
He
one
really
was for
wanted
the
to
action
live.
scenes. The other was for the love scenes.
He's got to have a double monkey to get in there. Make me look good on camera, boy.
Stunt lips.
This is probably a PG movie, isn't it?
Yep, straight
Because
PG.
I kind of like that, though, because really, when you watch it, I've never seen this movie before. I mean, obviously, I think everybody knew of his existence and everything, but, like Bruce said, it didn't get the best of reputations. So it was one that you kind of skipped, and it looked like just let's be honest, a big CGI mess and everything that was going on. So I'd never sat down and watched this. But this week, boys, I did something a little bit different.
You actually saw the movie?
No. I only missed that once, just the one time. I'm also glad I'm not the only one who hasn't done that. Weren't you the other one that had the Joseph Gordon-Levitt Robin on something that you ended up didn't watching? I
think he didn't watch Ichi the Killer.
That's what it was. But he joined us the entire show, and for that, we still have to applaud you for sticking that out and just going like, I didn't watch none of this crap. That's so. Check out our Ichi the Killer episode if you want some fun times.
I decided that I was going to enjoy listening to the episode while on air.
It's super meta. That's what we should do. We should just invite Patreon people just to sit and listen to the show. You don't get to say nothing. You just get to sit and listen. But I decided to watch this. I decided to kill kind of two birds with one stone. So I first of all, I want to say this: when we initially got this, when we put this down for the Patreon vote, am I wrong in saying that this was available on like HBO? We
did. We believed it was available on HBO. I don't know that it actually was, but we just. All three of us were like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely on HBO."
It's a Warner Brothers thing, surely, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that it was, but
it was not on HBO.
It was not. So we did it. I did end up purchasing this thing, so I put it on the iPad and I brought it to the gym, and I biked for 2 hours while watching this movie. And so it was odd because it was like I was.
What'd you do for the other hour of the movie?
No, it was.
You said you biked for 2 hours. This thing had to be 3 hours long. Man.
Well, no, it
2 hours 15.
Yeah, it
felt a little bit longer. I'll be honest.
It did feel that long. Now do that when you're pushing bike pedals and stuff like that. It's fun because it keeps you're kind of engaged because your body's always moving and everything, and you're in this racing environment and everything. So it all kind of makes sense, but. I had a lot of fun watching this stupid thing in the gym of all places. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I like this movie a whole bunch.
I don't hate it. I don't hate this movie. When I first saw it, there wasn't a whole lot to remember about it. Even the first time I saw it, I didn't hate it. It's so expertly done. It's just it's just not my jam.
Now, I'd never seen it before. This is my first time watching it. And I'm just going to say there's more than one movie here. It feels like more than one movie. It's a little bit too long to just be one movie but there's a really fun movie. One of the movies in here is really fun. The other movie, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel about it, is like there's more than one movie here. And I don't know if that's a complete two movies or if it's like one movie and half of another movie. I'm not exactly sure, but there's more than one movie, and there is a good movie here. But the parts that lose me, well, I have to work a little bit to get back into it when they lose me.
I think it's one decent movie and then like half of another movie that's kind of tacked on to it. You can easily take 45 minutes out of this movie, and I think it would move along at a much quicker pace and would be much more enjoyable, because it feels like one of those like Lock and Key on Netflix, where you get that first season and they just throw everything in because they don't think that they're going to get anything afterwards. This felt like they were throwing in everything. How many races were there? There's like 4 race set pieces. That's a bit much.
I really feel like we got a prequel, a movie, and a sequel all in this movie.
And I did like the storytelling, though. I thought it was very interesting approach to all of this, because you're going back and forth throughout the timeline a whole bunch. And like I said, with montage, this whole movie is just giant mastery of montages and stuff. And if you saw this in animated form, you would be 1,000% okay with it. But in live action, it does come off a little bit odd. But for what they're doing and how it feels like they're centering this, it works.
I love the visuals. I love how they've cranked up the color saturation about 15%. I mean, I think it's, especially our introduction to it, is really fun. Then I feel like we spend a little bit too much time with Lord Business, or whatever his name is, and with criminals and like maybe a little bit too much remembering the past or whatever, when I really enjoy seeing young Speed Racer drive his go-kart through the rose bushes. I like seeing Rex Racer in his race. I like seeing Speed Racer racing the ghost of his brother. But then it always hits these like there's this big betrayal twist that I don't care about. I just need to see a race with a wacky race with some goofy effects and keep the colors going, make it a little exciting, make it like a PG version of Alita Battle Angel or something. I mean, this has a good movie in it, but I think you hit it on your list there when you had directors that were too hot for anybody to say, let's just dial this back a little bit. And I don't mean I wanted to dial back the attitude. I honestly mean they needed to tighten the story.
They needed somebody to point and just go like, you need to get rid of this stuff. But they were at a power level at that point, even though Matrix 2 and 3 weren't quite the impactful one that the first one was. You still got a lot of juice. And those movies, while they may not have been high on the approval list for everybody, they still made a whole bunch of money. And so money talks.
What this movie is, it's a class of transitions. This movie has the greatest transitions of any movie I have ever seen, where they are letting you know right from the first frame of this movie, they're letting you know, because he's in the middle of a race, his backstory, why he's motivated to do what he's doing, what's happening during the race. And all of these things are happening all at the same time because of the transitions of the Wachowskis. And so when you're watching it at first, it's like for like a minute and a half, it's hard to follow because you have to get into the beats of the way that the movie is being unspooled to you. And so for me, it took a couple of minutes, but then I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. And watching all of those transitionals and like when he takes a turn and then they turn the character's head and you're seeing what's inside of that character's head, stuff like that where it's just it's amazing when you see, like, once you figure it out, you're like, oh wow, they're really going for something completely different than anything we've ever seen before. And I think that I can't remember who said it. One of you two said it, but it was that it is truly a live action cartoon. I mean, even the way the characters are speaking to each other sounds like the old Speed Race.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, I think that part of it's great, and also, like, I don't want to get too carried away with just how live action it is, because at least 30% of this is animated.
Oh, I think it's far more than that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, like, with the exception of the actors, unless they're in the racer house, it's all fake. Like, everything is not real. The classroom itself, where the desks are orange and the walls are yellow, like, that's real, but how much of that is real? You know, like, it is so, there was so much just added in post in these things, in this thing. And it's kind of fun to see the Wachowskis basically like, we are going to do whatever we want. Every single frame of this movie is a choice we have made. And whether you like this or don't like this, we have already made this movie, and it is not up to you.
Yeah,
I enjoy that part of the movie.
And yeah, I think also they were, I don't know if they were big fans or not of the source materials, but I can't figure out, because it feels like
they're huge.
Well, the reason I say I can't figure it out is it feels like they want to include so many details I won't say details, I'll just say tidbits out of 58 episodes of the show. But at the same time, they totally change the feel of the races compared to what I remember from the cartoon.
Okay, because now for whatever reason, I'm kind of the age where, like, I was aware of Speed Racer. Perhaps I watched a couple episodes here or there, but by and large, it was just I'm just past the Speed Racer kind of primetime era and everything. I mean, I know that there were, it was always just a race, and then the kid and the monkey are in the trunk, doing some shenanigans at some point. And I'm glad that they kept that in this one. But what outside of that's kind of different?
And
here
Racer
than there?
X pop it in to help him out, the mysterious Racer X. And Sean, how familiar are you with Speed Racer? Like, I watched a handful of the first few episodes, so that's it. But
growing up for me, there was an hour that was like Transor Z and Speed Racer, and so I wanted to see Transor Z, and I think Speed Racer just happened to be on also. So I watched a good bit of it. It's so derivative. I mean, the show itself, it's the exact same show over and over and over again.
And I guess the point I'm getting at is the racing. I mean, it's a cartoon. It's ridiculous. Speed Racer jumps out of the Mach 5 while it's driving onto the back of a motorcycle and tackles the guy driving the motorcycle, but the motorcycle never pops over, and then he jumps off and lands on his feet without even like skidding. It's got ridiculousness, but I don't remember the races being like Alita Battle Angel space race tracks in the 360 with high-tech gadgets and the car jumping over stuff. I remember the races kind of being portrayed as like straight up Grand Prix or road races.
Well, the races themselves were fairly normal, but the gadgets were crazy. Because, like, yes, he had those, the shoes in the movie where that allows it to do flips and all of that. That's in the cartoon, all of that. And even the design of the shoes that they design on the bottom of the car to do that is literally how they look in the cartoon. And the saw blades and all of this stuff, that's all from the cartoon. And it was always like gadget of the show kind of a thing. It wasn't like the Speed Racer didn't have all of that on the car all the time. It was like, hey, this week we've done this thing to the car, so it's going to come up later.
Let's lay the groundwork for you so you're not confused when this happens.
Right. And it would always come down to that gadget that would be put into the car.
Yeah, to me it was always about the kid and the monkey. and like, oh, what are you doing now?
And, you know, hiding in the trunk, that's a pretty good refrain from what I remember from the animated series. And I rewatched episode 1 earlier today just to see how it held up, but that's all that I have any clear memory of is episode 1.
Is it great? Like I remember?
Probably. I know that I'd say John Goodman did a pretty good version of Pops. And in episode 1 of the cartoon Speed Racer, he breaks out the Greco-Roman wrestling and does the like spinning the guy around. I mean, it looked very much like his ninja battle. Which, that's one of my favorite parts was the ninja battle. Like, I think I think this movie needs 3 races. You have the race where the brother dies. You know, I'm not counting like the go-kart race. You have the race where the brother dies kind of superimposed. You're going back and forth between that and Speed Racer about to break his brother's track record. Like, you make those 2 races kind of one race. And then you have like the big race at the 1 hour mark, you know, your big action set piece. Then you have the climactic race at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I think you have those 3 races. You have the ninja fight somewhere in between the races. You probably have like the guy who wants to do the Wayne's World thing to the Speed Racer family. In between race number 1 and 2, then in between 2 and 3, you have the fight with the ninjas. And I think you got a nice solid, and you could 90 to 2 hour, 90 minute to 120 minute movie there. But they really put in, I can't even quite tell you what they were putting in. I just think a lot of the non-race stuff was just taking a long time. And then something that I thought maybe could have, in a movie that's too long, the one thing they didn't give hardly any time to was the explanation on Rex Racer being Racer X and how he pulled off the facial switch.
Yeah, it's like, I got a little bit of plastic surgery. Shut up.
I think that they totally set it up to where they like where they were going to put that in the sequel. I mean, clearly.
Yeah, and if they were really filling up the idea of a sequel, I don't think he should win the Grand Prix in the first race. I think he should win the race, win the rally. Like that whole double cross with the brother and sister in the rally. Like if that's what you're going for, then that's your movie. You don't have that, and then we got to go ahead and move on to the next chapter. It feels like a movie with 4 acts instead of 3 acts.
Yes,
because there's nothing wrong with the movie having 4 acts, but we're trained to expect 3, so people are going to start to get restless in that 4th act unless it's just something phenomenal.
But it's like when the penultimate race happens, you just go like, all right, we're about to see credits, and then you realize there's another 45 minutes to this film, and you're like, do what now? This should be over.
It didn't work for me. I think it would have been better if they had tightened this up and saved some stuff for the Here's the thing. I think if they'd saved some stuff for the sequel, they might have actually gotten one.
I don't think so. I think that this movie was so bonkers at the time that people didn't know what to make of it.
And it looks super expensive too. That's always a handicap.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, you have carte blanche to do whatever you want. And this is what you make. And so people are like, well, I guess if it's not the Matrix, they don't know what they're doing. But this movie is just exactly what this movie is. There is no more Speed Racer than Speed Racer. There's not a movie where, this was done actually better in blah, blah, blah. Like that movie doesn't exist.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I think that's kind of the brilliance of this movie, is that no one is going to outdo the style of this movie. They're just not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Now here's a question I have, if I can ask you guys, because maybe I haven't seen all of the oeuvre, and I definitely don't remember it all. But do the Wachowskis have a film that is a consensus good movie made other than The Matrix?
There's the movie that got them The Matrix.
Bound. I think a lot of people like Bound.
Okay, so post-Matrix.
It's a little
post-Matrix. Do they have a consensus good movie?
No, I don't believe so.
All I can think of is like Jupiter's Legacy, Cloud Atlas, Speed Racer. Those are the 3 I can think of, so I might be forgetting some. And out of those 3, I haven't seen 2 of them. I've only seen Speed Racer, and it's got its charm. It's just not a smooth ride all the way through. unintended.
With this being 2008, in a weird, odd way, it feels like it's a decade too soon.
Yes.
You might be right there.
Because if you go back and you look at the time when The Matrix came out, not to say that it wasn't there previously, because it most certainly was, but The Matrix brought on an interest in anime that had been, I don't want to say dormant, but it wasn't nearly as big of a swell as it was, because Matrix kind of opened up that, that floodgate for a lot of people that weren't previously into kind of any anime. They would go, oh, I see what this is. Let me check out this other stuff.
But also, as far as their anime influence goes, I mean, if you like Speed Racer and you want to make a Speed Racer movie, that's great. But Speed Racer is like very, very early on what we consider modern anime, where Speed Racer was really just trying its best to sort of impersonate like Hanna-Barbera type art. So this really doesn't have what you would think of as classic anime feel to it.
No, but it's more of the like, here's what this crazy modern day anime aesthetic would be for this movie if this was done, circa 2008. I'm not saying that they were really argument. I'm not saying they're really trying to recreate, the Speed Racer, animated era perfectly, because it's clearly that they're not. But this thing is so over the top, and like with the family, with the weird transitions, all of the great television announcers that are used as mouthpieces to talk about the races and all that kind of stuff. All that is very, very much anime sort of stuff. It's like you've got these characters that you'll always kind of keep coming back to. They're the Greek chorus, if you will.
Good comparison there.
Well, it's also way easier to animate when there's someone sitting in a chair and their mouth is moving, which is part of of Speed Racer. I mean, to show how fast he's going, there's lines on the car a lot of the time. I mean, there's not. This is a very cheaply made.
My mouth has two functions: open and close.
What was the name of the I'll use the term animation loosely, but the animation company that did those earliest Marvel cartoons, the Fantastic Four, the original like Spider-Man, was that Filmation?
Funimation, right. They all kind of had the same sort of name.
But like Filmation, I guess they got better as time went on, but they were like a step below Hanna-Barbera, which was already pretty much cheapskates. And I think watching like the Speed Racer episode that I watched earlier today, I mean, it is straight up just like, it reminds me of like the 1960s, and it was made in the 60s, but it's pretty much the style of like those Fantastic Four Marvel cartoons from, you can hardly call them a cartoon.
We're traveling through the sky, and here's our repeating background.
It's like those things you used to be able to buy, like sticker books, only they were like vinyl, so that you could stick them more than once. You know what I'm talking about? The clingy dingy things. Well, that's what their animation was like. Like you had a Spider-Man torso and two arms, so you could move the arms, but nobody actually redrew anything.
It's called the classy way of animation.
That's going to kill me.
Cling forms? Is that right?
No. Color forms.
Color forms. I don't know.
I think it's color forms. I'm Googling it right now.
What'd you guys think of Matthew Fox here? Why did he never kind of click with anybody past Lost?
I think Matthew Fox did really good in We Are Marshall. Was that after Lost, or was that kind of during Lost?
I think that might be during.
The problem is his mouth. He is a very good-looking man. The problem is his teeth there's something wrong with him. So whenever he's speaking, whenever he's smiling, whenever he's doing any of those things, it looks off a bit to where you're like, oh, that guy could be the perfect man, but the teeth are off.
And this movie was mid-Lost, I guess. Yeah, this is prime Matthew Fox. Well, I'd say prime Matthew Fox was Party of Five or whatever, but this is second life Matthew Fox.
I mean, maybe that's a big ensemble. I mean, not to say the Lost isn't a big ensemble piece, but he was the de facto star of that, I would say.
Are you kidding? It was George Garcia was the star.
I'm sure if you asked him, he would probably say that's true. Hey, they had to find that bunker somehow. You know that. So wait a minute. How come Hurley's not losing any weight? What the heck's... And in fact, I think Hurley might be gaining a little weight. What's going on?
Yeah, how come
He's
you
eating
haven't
the
lost any
shadow
weight on that
monster, the
island?
smoke bear or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's like, oh, guess what? I've been eating 5 gallons worth of peanut butter every other week down here at the Hatch, so I guess that's how we keep it rolling over here. But yeah, I thought he was good, but it is like he's constantly doing what I think is a George Clooney impression, which is a good George Clooney impression. If you're gonna impersonate kind of a cool cat, you could do a lot worse than Clooney.
This is a weird thing I don't want to call it a complaint, but I like Matthew Fox better when his hair's cut like close to the scalp. He looks pretty good in a buzz cut, and it's weird to see him with hair. Yeah.
It is so weird.
That's when he acts better with less hair up there weighting his head down.
It's so straight.
Got a Johnny Bravo pompadour.
That would be great, Matthew Fox with the Johnny Bravo.
Hey, mama. That's what he just did. Listen, everybody kept going for The Rock for Johnny Bravo. Nah, Matthew Fox for Johnny Bravo. I'm putting it down right now. I'll say it. Get him a couple weeks with one of those Marvel trainers. He'll swell up enough. He'll be all right. I was
going to say George Garcia for Johnny Bravo.
I'd at least listen to the voiceover of that.
What I realized while watching this movie also is that Emile Hirsch is basically had Taylor Kitsch's career 10 years before Taylor Kitsch did, right?
That's great.
Because he was in all of these really high profile movies and then just went away.
I feel like his career died like out in Alaska in that movie or whatever.
Right. Well, that's a very good movie. That movie's terrific.
But wasn't that like it though? Nothing after that for him?
I want to say you're right. That he didn't do anything so high profile after that. But that movie also was like basically his reaction to what had happened in his other movies. I mean, because they kept trying to put him in all these big budget movies, and half the time it feels like Emile Hirsch was like, "You guys know I'm Emile Hirsch, right?" Like stuff like that.
They basically give him the Tom Cruise role from Risky Business in that movie with like the girl next door, kind of a remake of Risky Business.
Right.
And he's not a Tom Cruise type.
No, he is not. And so the whatever it's called, The Long Way Home or whatever.
Into the Wild, which is actually before
Into the Wild.
Which is the movie before this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
He went into the wild and left his career there, man. I think it was kind of downhill after that.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow,
all right. I forgot the big one, the big Emile Hirsch one that was like his big introduction was Alpha Dog, which that whole movie is just the straight dope. So watch Alpha Dog, first of all.
Lords of Dogtown was before Alpha Dog.
A lot of great performances in that movie. And that's when I was just like, oh, man, stupid Justin Timberlake can do everything. That guy can dance and sing and act. I'm like, I hate that guy.
But can he cross stitch?
I don't know. Like I wouldn't put it past him.
I still pretend to like his music, so ladies will talk to me.
Yeah, you gotta just go like, no, this is great. This is good stuff.
This is really good.
But Emile Hirsch is just like acting the crap out of this stupid movie. Everybody is. Yeah. Susan Sarandon gives a fantastic performance. That little sit down talk that she has, that's as good as anything she's done in like honest to God serious movies. And it's in this dopey little speed racer movie. It's kind of great.
Man, Emile Hirsch was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so
he's a big comeback for him.
He's doing some stuff. He's doing all right, that guy. But I think he's just got to pick the right projects. And again, I think he's also one of those crazy people.
So we were saying before, Adam, that you're kind of like peak age for Christina Ricci to come on the scene for you, right?
Yes. I think she might be like maybe a year older than me, so it's like it's right at that.
Yeah, because I would say, like, I haven't seen a ton of Christina Ricci's work, I mean, other than, like, when she was a kid, I saw one of the Addams Family movies. But I think this might be some peak Ricci, man. She seems really good here.
She's really good here for kind of a modern-day Christina Ricci performance that I think is just...
Because I think of her as like an indie darling and not in many studio films.
Yeah. I mean, definitely for sure. Check out Black Snake Moan with her and Samuel L. Jackson. That movie is, and believe it or not, to mention Justin Timberlake is in that movie as well, and Justin Timberlake kills in that movie too. So I would definitely say check out Black Snake Moan if you're a Christina Ricci fan or Sam Jackson fan for that matter.
And Sean, you made the comparison that for me and you, for our age, it would be Winona Ryder, and I think still to me, in my mind, Reality Bites is like peak Winona Ryder. But that is not an accident that they're like filling the same role, because when she was playing Wednesday Addams, they had her prep for the role by getting her to watch Beetlejuice and to base her performance of Wednesday on the way that Winona Ryder was in Beetlejuice. So she was kind of manufactured to be the next Winona.
And Christina Ricci and Winona Ryder are in Mermaids together.
Oh, there you go.
With Cher.
Well,
it's
when Cher's on stage, you don't see anybody else. So I didn't know they were in that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It happens. But yeah, Christina Ricci is one of those that, like, she kind of starts popping up a little bit more here and there. And I always like that. Oh, for Monster, she was great against Charlize Theron's Oscar-winning performance in Monster. So she was really great in that. But yeah, I've been a big Christina Ricci fan for quite some time. Well, let's get down to it here, boys. Before we get to our final review here of Speed Racer, we do have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how does this movie relate back 1-to-1 with Mr. Sylvester Stallone?
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Hiya, Sly. It's Sweet Shanzi again. None you plays Hiroku Togokan. Togokan. Let me start over. Hiya, Sly. It's Sweet Shanzi again. None you plays Haruko. Oh, my God.
Yes, keep going.
For once, it's not me doing it.
You, it's more like me. Trust me, this is like, I think both of us are having a day in the sun here. This is lovely.
I'm very famous for my pronunciation of Asian names.
Togokan in Speed Racer. And she's been in exactly 2 American movies, which is very, very lucky for me. She lives and acts in China, and from what I can tell, she does a little bit of everything: romantic comedies, action, thrillers, and a movie that roughly translate to My DNA Says I Love You. I think it's a romantic comedy, but my very American eyes can't really tell what it's about. It just looks like pure insanity. And I have no idea if None Yu's acting level is like at a high performance, because the only thing I've ever seen her in is Speed Racer, and trying to judge someone's acting performance in Speed Racer is sort of like trying to evaluate how fast someone can run as they're being thrown off the side of a building. Yes, she's in a lot of movies, but Steven Seagal has 56 acting credits to his resume, and the only time I can ever think of people cheering at a Seagal performance is when his character is brutally murdered in the beginning of Executive Decision. But Sly, I bring up None You because she's also in The Expendables 2. I don't know what she does in it because I've never seen the movie, which may come as a surprise to people who know I've been doing this joke for the better part of 7 years. Why haven't I seen Expendables 2? Well, as today's Stallone connection might say, that's none you business. Hold for uproarious laughter. Keep holding for uproarious laughter. Still holding. Still holding. And here we are again, Mr. Stallone. That's how you're connected to this drug-fueled nightmare of a movie. I hope to hear from you soon. This is the 364th time we've tried this bit. I'll do better next week. Thank you. Your friend, Sweet Shanzi from the internet.
And if Mr. Stallone isn't quite aware, it's heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. Just shoot us a line. Just say, hey, what's up? That's all. And, we'll get it. Doesn't have to be a big ordeal. We would appreciate that. All right, before we get to it, let's get down to our Robin rating system here, everybody. If you don't know what that is, why don't you head on over to our subreddit, reddit.com/r/heromoviepodcast. It's right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, where does Speed Racer fall on the Robin rating system for you?
It's not bad. Like there's a good movie in there and there's fun to be had. And it's just, for me, the parts that I don't like were kind of a bummer because I started off really excited that I was going to be praising this movie pretty well. But I still think there's some fun to be had there. I think it's really good, if you've seen it before and you kind of know, like, all right, this is when I'll go make a sandwich or do something like that. I can just let it kind of play through here, but I don't want to miss the ninja fight. Don't want to miss some of the crazy races, but there's enough crazy races. I don't have to watch every minute of them. Don't really care about the double cross. I know that's his brother anyway. Let's just have some fun. So I'm going to give it having said all that, a Damian Wayne.
All right. Sean, what do you got?
Well, I seem to like this movie more than you do, Bruce, but I'm also giving it a Damian Wayne. I really like. I think everyone needs to see this movie. It's just not my jam, It's something where it's like, oh, hey, this is a like I said, this is a masterclass in transitions. This movie, but it's just not for me. So it's a Damian Wayne.
Yeah, the movie is kind of all over the place. It definitely, at 2 hours and 12 minutes, is definitely over by at least 45 minutes. I think that Bruce is correct that there's a hidden gem in here somewhere waiting to get out, but I think because of the excesses of the Wachowskis, certainly at that time, no one could say no, and everyone was just like, well, you did the Matrix movies, and by gum, that made us a whole bunch of money, so we're going to let you do whatever the heck it is that you want to do. And maybe that could have been helped by pumping those brakes just a little bit here, and then kind of focusing this movie into, the sharper point that it kind of needs to be. That said, I really enjoyed it. I thought I thought I was going to hate this movie, if I'm completely honest. Maybe that's why I enjoyed it as much as I do, is because I thought the bar was just so low. Because it was a movie that it felt like people crapped on a whole bunch. It was a $120 million budget, barely made $98 million worldwide. So that's a pretty huge disappointment. So it wasn't high on the top of my list of things to do. That's why I decided to watch this thing at the gym, and it was great. It really was a whole heck of a lot of fun. You're getting. And I don't think I would have appreciated this movie in 1998 or 2008 rather, if I'm quite honest with myself, because I think I would have looked at this and been like, what is this? I have no clue. But like I said, I think it's about 10 years too late. If it would have shown up a little bit later, I think the audience
too early
rather. I think the audience for this movie would probably be there today, because if you and remember, this movie came along at the big giant 3D renaissance and everything. So this movie was shot in I don't know if it was shot in 3D, but it was put out in theaters in 3D. And I could watch this and go, man, this would be a great 3D experience and stuff. So I feel like if it came out 10 years later than it did, it might have done a lot better. But it's certainly, I don't know, man. Demon Slayer was number one at the U.S. box office. A movie where a train is a demon.
I'll tell you an issue. The Demon Slayer also had 4 acts, but the difference there is that fourth act was the best part.
That fourth act was dope, though, for real.
Yes, like you were so glad for it. It was like, oh, I've already had dessert, and you're bringing me a second dessert. Yes,
yeah, that was what we were just like. Oh, well, we've done through this movie. Nope, there's a whole nother movie behind it. Watch out.
I'll be honest. I don't know that there is an audience for live action anime, because anime fans are pretty adamant how like every live action anime movie stinks, and the ones that have done well have usually done well by non-anime fans. Like, I don't know that anime fans are what made Battle Angel Alita a financial success at the box office. So like Initial D is maybe the only beloved anime live action adaptation I can think of right now by us.
Oh, I do really like that movie.
And I think even made 10 years later, even made this year, Adam, there's just so much baggage on a live action anime adaptation. It's a big hump to overcome.
Yeah.
And Hollywood doesn't do any favors by making Scarlett Johansson every Japanese heroine out there.
She's a pretty lady. We got to put her in stuff.
And I got to say this part, because I didn't get it out during the proper podcast, which is that this is a movie about auto racing that people who like auto racing would absolutely hate.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say this. It seems more down to earth than the last Fast and Furious movie I saw.
Right. And people hate that movie.
It's a Tim Drake for me. A surprising Tim Drake. I had 2 choices when I went to there. They were like, do you want to rent it or do you want to buy it? I think it was like $2 difference.
If they just remade this entire movie exactly as is, but Vin Diesel was Racer X, they did let's see, you make Ludacris be a Speed Racer, and this is Fast 10.
Warner Brothers is over there furiously writing down stuff right now, going, this is good, get that down. Just terrible.
We're gonna sue you, Universal.
That is the worst idea ever. So yeah, that's definitely a Tim Drake for me. It was quite enjoyable, surprisingly so. Well, that will do it, everybody, for this week's episode of Hero Movie Podcast. We're going to talk about what we're going to do in just a moment here. But in the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie, where unfortunately I'm not doing many reviews or reactions on Speed Racer anime, but I'm doing a whole lot of Attack on Titan. Checked out a little bit of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I've checked out a whole lot of Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer. It's all there. And if you prefer to listen to people talk about anime instead of watching them talk about anime, you can check out one of my other podcasts. It's a show called Anime IO.
So this stuff is, what you're saying is it's a slight step above what the Speed Racer cartoons were? Just a slight step?
No, I wouldn't say that, because I am definitely not out to pick a fight with any Speed Racer fans. It's just more recent.
You hear that, Full Metal Alchemist? You ain't jack compared to Speed Racer. That's from Bruce Leslie right there. Sean, what else?
Full Metal Alchemist never got to play in primetime on ABC.
Fair enough.
We've got a podcast called 30 Questions, where we ask 30 questions of a popular nerdy television show. And we are currently down, but we've done The Mandalorian, we've done Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision. We've done a lot. So just type in 30Q into your podcatcher, and one of our various sundry of shows will come up.
Yeah, check it out. We got all kinds of stuff out there, and we appreciate each and every one of you for listening. And, of course, I do want to say a big, giant thank you again to all the people who helped make this particular show possible over at patreon.com/HMP. Again, beginning of the month is coming up. That's when we like to see everybody coming in, and whatever value that you find in this show, put that in number form, send it back to us. We really appreciate that, and you'll get more content at the exact same time. You much can't lose on that one, everybody. Next week, we're going to be talking about Snake Eyes. That's right, the G.I. Joe prequel that just hit theaters this week. We're going to be talking about that next week. So do check all of that out, and we'll see you back here next week. What do you say? That is it, everybody. Join us next week for Snake Eyes, for Sweet Sean Kovacs for the internet, and Bruce Leslie. I'm Anna Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Reckless and wild, they pour through the turns. Their prowess is potent and secretly stern. As they speed through the finish, the flags go down. The fans get up and they get out of town. The arena is empty, except for one man still driving and striving as fast as he can. The sun has gone down and the moon has come up. And long ago somebody left with the cup. But he's driving and striving and hugging the turns and thinking of someone for whom he still burns. He's going the distance. He's going for speed. She's all alone in a time of need. Because he's racing and pacing and plotting the course. He's fighting and fighting and riding on his horse. He's going the distance. Trophy, no flowers, no flashbulbs, no wine. He's haunted by something he cannot define. Bowel-shaking earthquakes of doubt and remorse assail him, impale him with monster truck force. In his mind, he's still driving, still making the grade. She's hoping in time that her memories will fade, cause he's racing and pacing and plotting the course. He's fighting and fighting and riding on his horse. The sun has gone down and the moon